Okay, welcome back to EastWest Studios in Hollywood, the famous studio where all the hits came from. And talking of hits, now I've got the pleasure of today's guests on, I call them friends. They may have a different opinion, but two gentlemen that, one I've known much longer than the other, but two gentlemen that not only do I class as friends, but also admire as musicians. And I have no idea where this show's going, because when these guys are on the sofa, we could have a problem. So please welcome Benny Greb and Mark Guiliana.
Yeah, welcome.
Very good. So guys, we're going to start seriously, okay?
Okay.
So I want to ask you about inspiration, because both of you guys are, I class as innovators. In the last 10 years, 5-10 years, you are, you know, the new generation of inspiring drummers that come through. So Benny, what inspired you and what inspires you to make the kind of music that you're making?
Wow. This guy, for example, very, very inspiring. I mean, it's, for me, it's a step by, either it's a outside thingy, so you see incredible musicians do their stuff and it just kicks your butt and you think, oh my God. And it changes how, it puts a couple of question marks at the end of the sentences where you think like, this is how it has to be, exclamation mark, right? And then you see something where it's like, this is how it has to be? Apparently not. And then that's a wonderful, sexy moment. Like when that happens, where it's like, oh, wow. So I thought it has to be, or or this is how you do it. And then you see something outside around you that questions that, or that just proves that or disproves it, so to speak, right? So that, of course, happens all the time. And then the other thing is just by self-analysis, so to speak. So I will listen to a recording of mine and I'll get depressed and then I'll change something about it. So where I listen to my writing or I listen to, and I think, it's not good enough. There's something missing, and like, so this is also a big motivation, a big inspiration to be like, what is this thing that I'm not wanting, but I don't have it yet, and I try to go towards that.
Right.
Oh, and I forgot the third one, which is sometimes luck, accident, where something just happens and you're like, huh, I want to keep that.
Yeah.
And then it gets crazy because then you try to chase it and it doesn't happen again. And so,
well, I mean, Mark, I know that in New York, I mean, some of the things you've told me before, the kind of gigs that you do, I mean, it's just, I mean, I know there's a small gig sometimes you do with like a, you know, I don't know, a dancer or, I mean, again, what keeps you inspired?
Yeah, just being alive, really. I mean, it's all around us at all times. And I, of course, agree with Benny. I mean, I have some musician friends who maybe don't always, the first place they look might not necessarily be music for their inspiration. For me, it is, actually, you know. And I have my heroes, and I return to them quite often, whether it's just completely recreational pleasure or an escape or true inspiration or detailed analysis to, again, try to arrive at some new ways, you know. But really, every day, yeah, a place like New York, but more and more, all just getting to travel and experience new cities and just the interchange of ideas at all times. It's really trying to be aware, basically.
What musically, you know? When you travel, the music around you, or just everything, the culture?
Yeah, oftentimes because we might be there to play while we're playing, we're missing the opportunity to explore the other music of that city. But I think more and more, as the world is getting smaller, it's easier to have somewhat of an experience of other cultures virtually, you know. And but I do absolutely try to take advantage of having some downtime in other cities to just be enriched. I mean, for me, I'm just attracted to people who are passionate about what they do, and just you know, so I think that, of course, can go well outside of music, and to just, yeah, to feel like today. Okay, here's a small example. With my family this morning, we went to the Women's March downtown. You know, this is the anniversary of the inauguration. And it just, even that, to see people so passionate about this thing.
Believing in something, yeah.
Yeah, and this thing happens to be a very, very important thing in my opinion.
And mine.
You know, the just equality and unity and all, just love, you know, and just that alone is like, I was like proud to be a human being down there, you know. So it's like, okay, how can I take that with me, you know? So it's slightly an abstracted example, but that thing of just passion and lifting people up, and you know.
But I think that cool. Again comes over in both of your playing. I feel that you, which is a good thing. You're never contented with your playing. I mean, we recently did a tour, Mark, and you know, I think if you really had a choice, we did a clinic tour, and if you'd have had a choice, you would have gone out of a bass drum and a snare drum, because that was the feeling that you had at that moment.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And that's how maybe the greats made music. And I mean, is there any? I mean, I almost know your answer, Mark. So I'm going to start with Benny. But is there anyone that you go back to? One of the greats that you go back to? You know, you've listened to lots of stuff and music, but you go back to a great and listen to something and hear it in a different way.
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, we actually once gushed about him as Steve Gadd is just an all-time favorite of mine, and someone who is an incredible teacher in terms of that it's not about the what you play, it's how you play it, it's when you play it, why you play it, and he sometimes can do so much with, so you will hear again the same vocabulary sometimes in different contexts, and it's just miraculous how. I mean, I have a drum and bass record with Steve Gadd on it. Right. Like it's from a New York photographer or something like I got that once from a colleague, and you will hear like and it's like oh my god, this is amazing. Right. So it's and it's great because this is one of those things what I talked about earlier. You think to express myself properly. And maybe this is the first route to go as when you learn an instrument, to be like, oh, I need to express myself. I need more tools. I need more repertoire, right? Maybe I need more sounds even. Like that goes back to like, oh, this guy with a bass drum and a snare, like everything, no questions asked. So, and stuff like that, like Gadd is great for that, to challenge some things that I sometimes chase. And then I just look at him and think like, huh. This is way better, and so and I will never forget sitting in this club in LA last year, at the Catalina, I think Catalina's, and
we were there.
Yeah, and like Dave Wecker sitting here, Peter Erskine sitting there,
and me sitting opposite you, or did that?
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
That did.
And Mike was there.
You were there too?
No.
Okay.
I wish.
Oh gosh. Yeah, but anyway, those guys, and so just to make that clear, that's why I chose those guys. I don't put myself in that category of like, of course, like Weckl and Erskine and stuff. So that's why I found it even funnier that I then felt them being like, you know, and I felt like, oh, we're watching this together, and they're
as excited the same thing,
and they're as excited as I am, and this is just one of the most beautiful things. But now I went back to the inspiration, but to answer the question, Gadd is one of those guys.
Wow. Okay.
But I listen to a lot of old music, and it's just a never ending. I think it's also a perspective thing. So when things in your life change, you will maybe listen in a different way, and different things hit you. You understand different things. So that happens all the time.
Mark, I know you're a big fan of going back to.
I am, yeah. But I love Steve Gadd. He's man. Thank you, Steve Gadd.
Yeah. Well, this is the Steve Gadd Show.
Well,
it's
Steve
the
is
Steve
for
Gadd
you.
tribute show.
Steve, really, thank you. You know, quick anecdote. I saw him in an airport lounge a couple months ago. He was with the project he has with Chick Corea now. And I don't know him so well, but we've, you know, met a few times, and we'd had a nice, almost like a half hour together. And all we talked about was parenting. And that for me was like, I just got parenting advice from
Steve.
Steve. Yeah, this is amazing. You know, because like you said, the stuff is the stuff, and it's effing genius. But that's the stuff, you know, and it's like the mind is a whole other thing, and to just get that side of his views was like, you know, it was very heavy,
Well,
very, very heavy.
And I think what I also find interesting about that, and talking about inspiration and heroes maybe, is to understand that I love Gad because he has a certain quality in his playing, which has to do with sensitivity, listening, and being gentle and open.
Which is his personality.
Exactly. And when you then meet him, you figure out like,
he cares about
you gotta, to really be that good at it, you gotta have that quality as a human being. He's so gentle, and he's so like respectful, and this is the respect that he gives the musicians he plays with, and just life, and this is something we need to aspire to.
Yeah,
you know?
You're right.
Well,
it's like it's exactly going back to what you just witnessed with the march. You know, and without getting too heavy on it, if everyone just respected everybody and loved everybody, whatever, then we'd be in a much better place around the world. And like I said, but you're correct as well with Steve. Steve is such a caring and passionate person that he really does care about how you feel. But he's also, when I talk to him about whenever it is, and I ask him about the new guys, he knows. He knows who you, you know, he'd know all about you. He knows. He's up to date with everything. And I don't even think he thinks of himself as almost like the Godfather. But you're right. I think
that's why he is.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's why. And coming back to you guys as well. To be honest with you, that's how you are in your band. Even though you run your band in a sensitive way as a team player. Okay, someone's the figurehead, but you're still sensitive. And that brings us around to. I'm sure maybe you've talked about this a few times now, but you know, David Bowie's last album, okay, which is going to go down, if it isn't already, as probably the greatest album of all times. Unfortunately, one reason being because of the significance. But I mean, I loved that album, and I think that tell me what was that experience like to work with Dave?
Incredible, yeah. I can't say enough great things about him. You know, he was just very funny, number one. You know, very present, very generous. Just brilliant. You know, I say this as almost the highest compliment. In many ways, it was a very normal experience. Which
is significant because it wasn't.
Yes.
Yes.
But he put you in that relaxed state.
But also the way we think of him is not mortal, you know, not a mortal being. And he had all these transformations, and here he is, just this really genuine guy. And our goal was simple, to get the best performances of these incredible songs. And when after we did, we were done, you know. So it was, and when I think back on my best musical experiences, the goals are quite simple. And yeah, he and Tony Visconti, they worked together very much, and as a team, they created this environment that was incredibly comfortable to work within. And it was a great balance of, you know, all the songs had demos, so the parts were on there. They were all kind of programmed or, loops and things. So there was a lot of information to try to realize, but also he was always pushing us to take chances. So it was really a dream, quite literally a dream environment, you know, of having some artistic freedom and being encouraged to make the choices that you would instinctively make. And we were hired as a band, so the whole idea of like being scared and nervous, if that would ever flash, I would look over and there's Tim
You recorded
LaFave.
as a band, didn't you? You recorded as a band as well. There was no layering, he was there.
Oh yeah, they were all takes. But it was almost like he was the new guy.
Yeah.
You know, because again, it was like, wait, what's happening? Oh, and I look over and I see my buddies and we tell some stupid joke and the whole, So it was.
Do you think
it was incredible?
Do you think that when you did that album, did you ever think the significance? Obviously, no one knew that was going to be Dave's last album, but did you realise the significance that you were working on? This is. I really do believe that in the next 10 to 15 years, this is going to be one of the greatest albums of all time.
Well, that's.
And you would have been involved in that.
Well, no, we didn't even know. It was so secretive, you know. So we couldn't talk about it, and we didn't know any information other than what happened in the room when we were in the room. So this was 2015, January, February, March. We did 1 week a month, and then nothing. And then I read on RollingStone.com or whatever that the single's coming out on this date. I was like, this is happening.
Yeah.
You know, really. So it was out of respect for their request for privacy, outside of the studio walls. It was actually, because I couldn't share the experience, it was easier to pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, because then I could just go about my business and not, because every day I'd be thinking about it. And what a great lesson to learn in the idea of the power of not sharing information. You know, I've the impact of the release and of the very strategic announcements. And it was very rarely an announcement. It would just be, here's a song, here's a video. And it's like, wait, wait. You know, it's not that, because if it was David Bowie's working on a new album, you get that buzz of the news, and then it's like, and then when the song comes out, oh yeah, I think I heard he was working on a new record, you know? So that privacy, and it's this kind of nice, it's like a positive secret, you know? We're not gonna tell anybody as a team, and this is almost empowering, you know? But that absolutely plays into his genius, artistic genius, you know? And, but yeah, I was being surprised when the record came out. I went out and bought it. You know, it's I was just a fan at that point. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back.
I'm Sami Osala. I play the drums for Sunrise Avenue, and I have a new band called Stone Blue Electric, also as well. Ever, probably Phil Collins albums. That was the most impressive sound I think I've ever heard since I was, you know, a child. And I've heard that Paul Carapena played great drums also with a different batch. Yeah, but since we were doing albums in Sweden with Sunrise Avenue and in Helsinki, it seemed to me that every place had, you know, 80s great drums.
Before we move on to the next section, so just finishing off with Dave Bowie, because obviously the album came out on vinyl. I know you are a huge vinyl fan, okay, because we have spent time going around the country, and you traipsing me round to the back alleys of various cities around.
Wait, where is this going?
Yeah, various cities in the UK.
In daylight.
In daylight, yeah. To buy vinyl.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And you've both decided to bring out your new albums, which, and again, you know, I know you well enough to be honest with you, are great albums.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mark Guiliana's Jazz on vinyl.
Oh, yeah.
And the deformed facial expressions of Benny Greb on vinyl. What chose you to go back to vinyl, bring a vinyl out?
Whenever I worked with artists, like when I started to like be a professional, I played on a couple of albums and they never came out on vinyl. It wasn't a thing, or maybe it was one, but not with the artists that I played with, like around 2000, 2005 and stuff. And then, like, guys I played with, sometimes, like, there was this, this is also on vinyl. And I'm like, oh my God, it's the first vinyl my playing is on, actually. And then, it's on, and then I came out with my album, and then another album, and then another album, and I was like, where are my albums?
Right.
So I got a little bit more like, okay. And almost sounded like you there. Okay. I was like, okay. The next album.
Is that me?
Yeah, of course it's
okay.
you.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, so the next. the next album I was like, especially if I have great artwork like that, and then there was like everything was white and blah blah, and I was like, oh, is there white vinyl? You know, so if you unpack it, you see that so the LP is actually white.
Can I unpack it?
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay.
And I just wanted to do it. I wanted to have it myself.
Yeah.
And,
well, I guess this was always your favorite albums of all time.
Well, I just wanted to build on that. I think that is also an answer to your first question.
Okay.
About leading a band and playing your own music. There's a certain amount of will that just needs to be present in order to make it happen. Okay, creativity and all this stuff, but just the sheer will to bring something to life. That's beautiful.
And it's the heavy version, you know.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Yeah. But the will to bring something to life, you know, what's the inspiration? Well, inspiration is one thing, but then the idea of, you know, I learned early on when I was playing as a sideman and these things that I had these other things that I wanted to say, and when I was younger, I actually just wished other people would know about these other things I can do, you know? And then it's like, well, if you want to say something, just create the environment and say it, you know?
Don't wait for others to create it for you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So just like this, don't wait for somebody to make the fun. It's, okay, what do I have to do? It's going to cost this, and I got to do this. Great.
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
Well, that's my next question,
you know?
because you're both, you know, like I said, you're band leaders, okay? You're running a band, and, you know, it's an expensive business, what we do, and unfortunately, when you run a band, you're the guys that are taking the risk, okay? So the expense on vinyl, it's hard to get pressed now. I mean, I don't know what it's like in America, but in Europe, it's very tricky. I think there's 2 or 3 places to get vinyl pressed. Is the expense worth it to you?
Yeah, because of what he said.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all that stuff. And this is this growing process as an artist, so to speak. I do that because I still think it's kind of pretentious. But
you've seen that on telly.
Yeah, when I'm an artist. I always think that I have a scarf that I throw like this, you know. But I mean, that's
you got a beard
what
that you can do this.
Yeah. But that's what it is. So, I mean, one is to have like the inspiration, and then, like Mark said, the will. And then the third thing is, which I had to learn a lot, is like, but then the strategy to actually, because in the beginning I had a lot of inspiration and a lot of will, but I just didn't know what to do with that, you know? And I had a lot of passion. I was like, this is gonna be great. And then, but I didn't know how to put a band together, and I didn't know how to like really write that stuff. So, or how can I give it to the band then? And so that has been a huge learning process for me as well. And it's beautiful. Like you really grow. But
well, I love that the vinyl's back. My daughter's into vinyl. She's into music now. And when I say when we're living in a society, or that generation society where they've got free music, for my daughter to save her money up, because it's not cheap to go and buy vinyl. And when I asked her, what do you want the records for? She goes, it's just that feel. And you're like, wow, that generation gets what I got.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, they're living in a generation that music's been free for them for all their life.
Right.
And now they're prepared to go out and spend, I don't know what, probably $30 in the US, but £20 or £25, which is a lot of money for a youngster to buy.
And they weigh about 25 pounds. So
Yeah,
that's the problem when you travel with them. But.
Yeah. You don't travel with these and sell them as merch, though, do you?
I don't.
I was going to say, because that's going to be hard.
It would have to be, in extreme small quantities.
I was going to say.
And you have to pay so much overweight.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's just not practical. But
I do agree. I think especially, I love in particular to listen to acoustic music on vinyl and potentially quiet music. And I feel like, for me, the epitome of, music that belongs on vinyl is that Blue Note chunk of time in Van Gelder Studios. Something like A Love Supreme. I feel like you can hear the room.
Yeah.
You hear, and that to me, I don't know if I could do a blindfold test of vinyl to digital in the same system and all that. But I know that especially in quieter moments, in acoustic, like a saxophone recorded in a room, so there's some other mojo happening that makes its way into the vinyl, and it's really satisfying to listen loud and hear some of the imperfections. You know, I think it adds to the experience.
And it's very fitting in the studio that we're actually sitting in at the moment. You know, where we were sitting in the studio where New York was recorded. We're sitting in the Studio 2 here, where all the Beach Boys and the Wrecking Crew. And I sat in that room yesterday, complete silence, and I just felt some kind of magic in that room. It's almost like it's in the walls. It's amazing. And so I get where you're coming from. Now, okay, we've gone far too heavy, so we're going to have to lighten the mood. And I know, well, maybe it's not going to be light, but we've got to the section on show and tell.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to be honest, I'm a little bit concerned with you two.
What?
I never know what's going to happen here. So let's start with you, Benny.
Okay.
Your show and tell, and tell us why.
Look, I'm gonna put this back to where it should be. I think this is a drum show, okay? So I brought. Stop with all that artistic.
There's a beater over there. Come on.
Yeah. With all that artistic and human, gentle and listening and women's march. No.
Yeah.
Here. This is a VHS tape, kids.
Have you got a VHS player to play that on?
I don't.
No, okay, I was just checking.
But I played it a lot, and this is a VHS tape. It's the Buddy Rich Memorial Scholarship Concert, '89, the tape 2, with Steve Gadd, Dave Weckl, and Vinny Colaiuta on it. I brought this because it's so important to me, because when I had my first drum lessons, when I first was self-taught, just tried around myself. Then when I was 6, I started lessons. And the lessons and my playing at home never really fit together much. The lessons were so weird for me. Like, I had to play these like dance rhythm of bossa nova in one fill, and then like a cha-cha in one fill. And it was like to play weddings and stuff like that. It was really very restrictive, and I was like, it's so weird, the stuff that I'm feeling at home when I play. Like, it's not that. It's not reading. It's not. And I was really like a little bit disappointed and it was actually that the teacher was like, okay, but this is how we do it. That you get always one groove and then one fill.
This is how we do it, ! Was the teacher.
Exactly. I think that's why I care so much about that. Because like he was like, okay, this is rock, boom, boom, ga, do, do. And this is pop, boom, ga, boom, boom, ga. The difference was one bass drum. It was the same fill, by the way. But we then went through, we had this book written out, 15 or 20 grooves, and one day he just looked at me and was like, huh? And I'm like, huh? And he's like, huh?
He didn't talk much.
I'm like,
so you're done.
So I'm a drummer now.
Wow.
Right? It was like, this is it. Yeah. Like, so I thought, I now go home and I sit at home and word will get around. Right. So someone will call me, I pick up, and they say like, hey, we heard you're a drummer now, right? And we wanted to play in the band. And I would say like, wait, what style do you play? And they play like, oh, we play Funky Shuffle number 3. And I'm like, okay. And that would be how it would be. That's of course not how it was, but something elementary happened. The guy said like, oh, to say goodbye, come home to my place, like to just say goodbye, blah, blah, blah. So first we looked at a couple of pictures of his vacation. I'm like, oh, this is going to be long. And then he popped in some videos. One was a Genesis live concert, and I was like, I like that. That was amazing. And then he popped in another one where there was a black and white video of like a guy going insane. And then a more 80s looking big band, like with a couple of 80s looking guys, to be honest, but playing, and all my fuses just burned through. I didn't talk. I was like, I've never seen anything like that before in my life. It wasn't on the television. It wasn't like, I didn't have access to it like in this little Bavarian village, right? So, but I got 3 things because of this immediately. The first thing was, I like this. I like this. I like what happens there. I don't understand it, but I like it. Second, this is hard. I can't do this. I still like it though. And the third is, but it's not hard for them. It didn't seem hard to them. They were, and it's the first time that I understood this thing of like playing music. They sounded like they were just playing. And it just blew my mind. And these 3 things, because of this video, kind of have been guiding posts for me to be like,
wow.
I wanna be one of those guys in terms of I wanna, you know, do that, do something like that. It has to feel good to me, but I have to have this playing feeling, kind of. And if there is a difference between what I understand now and maybe what I like, it can actually close this gap. Right. I'm not saying that I'm there, but I made a lot of progress since then. And so this is an important...
wow, okay.
Very cool.
I hope you're going to top that one then, Mark. What's your show and tell?
You don't have to top
No pressure.
that.
Well, it is important to note that Steve Gadd is still a part of the show.
He is a part of the show.
Very important part of the show. I brought some coffee.
Wait, is this the coffee that the cats kind of shit out and then...
No, not that coffee.
Oh.
But I do have a feeling that, well, anyway.
But there is this coffee, right? There is this...
Yes,
yeah.
the lemurs.
Did you ever,
the
you're a
lemurs.
coffee fan, did you ever drink that coffee?
Yes, I bought some in Jakarta.
So
Hang
how
on.
is it?
So, wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Can you please explain
Yeah.
where you're taking this? What is this coffee for a start?
I think the story is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's a very expensive, very like, ooh, coffee, like the scarf, right? But it is made by the coffee beans falling down. It gets eaten by an animal, gets shit out, like digested shit out. And that is actually what you then brew.
Well, that poor animal.
So, okay, I don't know too much, but yes, I have enjoyed this coffee.
Okay.
Coffee, the way coffee grows, is cherries, right? So it's a fruit, and these beans are the seeds inside of this fruit. So apparently this animal can identify, or naturally identifies, the best cherries.
Okay.
That's
right?
what they say.
So they only eat the best cherries, so whatever
Which
they
sounds, this
choose...
sounds a lot nicer than the
whatever-
way that Benny told the story.
whatever they choose to ingest is of the highest quality.
Okay.
So they basically, it's handpicked basically.
By them.
I see.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm beginning to, I was worried that somewhere in a laboratory somewhere there was a load of animals running around after trying to drink caffeine.
You know, I
So
have
hopefully it's
heard
not.
that the treatment of these animals is not super hi-fi. So
Okay.
it's there, but
Can I smell this coffee? Because
yeah. So this is, I mean, it's less about this specific coffee and it's more, but you can open it. It's more about coffee in general. Mike and I spent a lot of time together. Well, 10 days. It felt like a lot.
yeah, it did feel like a long time. That car's small.
And basically,
I love how it smells. Actually, I'm not a coffee drinker.
Hang
at
on,
all.
wait a minute. Before I sniff this.
it's only coffee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's
It's a really nice coffee. And our days actually
nice.
basically consisted of, we get in the car, we find the best coffee in each
We
town.
Mark,
I would
you
find
were-
it. I
you
would
were
show
the
you
guy.
around your own country.
Yeah, you were very good.
And then we would listen to John Coltrane until we get to the next place.
And have to play the drums.
Yeah,
Sounds like
and that was 10 days of...
Yeah. And I've got to say that you taught me a lot. And I am grateful for that. But I'm also not grateful because now I can't just go into a coffee shop and have a
now
cup
you're
of coffee.
snobbish.
Because
turned
now
into a-
you've taught me.
But check it out. But for me...
You turned him into a coffee snob.
Yeah, he did.
But I love great coffee,
Yeah.
and I love to, I roast beans at home, and I try to, it's fun. It's fun. It's a legal drug, and but there's so much nuance, and especially I learned so much from being around people who really know what they're talking about, and however, I absolutely appreciate coffee's function, and there are times where I am in need of its function much more than its
Yep.
brilliance, you know? So for me, flying out here, I needed a little pick-me-up. I got a coffee on the plane. So I had delicious United Airlines coffee, 30,000 feet up in the air, and it was perfect.
Did the job.
It was great.
Yeah.
So
You've changed.
So no. If we have the time, I'd rather say, hey, you know what? Okay, if we left at 11, we'd make it to the next place by 3.
Yeah.
Let's leave at 10.
Yeah.
And go to this place over here, because it's nice. And now that right, you still go to some of the places we've been.
As I said,
particularly
I am
that one in
grateful for
Manchester.
because
was very good.
And yeah, the one in Manchester was amazing, and I wish I could tell everyone what it was called. Then we could give it a shout out.
Yeah.
But it was incredible.
It says it right here.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I will put the photo up of the place.
This is actually interesting. Do you think, because it's a funny pairing, because I never drink coffee. I drink per year. I drink per year maybe coffee twice. I don't find it disgusting or weird. It's like I love to smell it. I love to smell it, especially when it's grinded out. Is that the right English word? Sorry. So would you be 100% like confident to convert me into a coffee lover?
I think
with the tools you have available.
Oh, well, I like really. Do you drink tea? Do you like any hot drinks?
Yes.
Okay, so that's number one, because just for the experience of drinking a hot drink.
Oh yeah.
To me, I like light roasts, and I like the pour over method. So there are times, depending on the bean and the roast, it can be very tea-like. And do you like caffeine? Do you get caffeine? Matcha. Okay. So your body reacts to it well. I don't know. I maybe can't say I'd absolutely convert you, but I think I could point you in a good direction.
What you did, though, for me, on the final point on that one, is that I would just drink coffee in well-known corner shop chains, if you like. Yeah. And Mark was responsible for making me go, actually, why have I been drinking in those places when these are the places to drink? Because the point is, there was no bitterness, there was no, and so
just a lot
he
of
converted
love.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, for me, it's been really, really amazing.
Wait, you said there's not much bitterness, and you just said just a lot of love?
There's a lot of love in the
coffee.
Absolutely. From these shops. So to really do the...
You are freaking hippies.
So you know, to learn about where the coffee comes from.
Right.
And now more and more these roasteries are becoming very transparent as to where the coffee comes from and their relationship.
The stomach of this animal.
He's got a list of questions when he goes in and he asks.
So, and there's a lot of love in this animal when it comes back out.
Can we get off this animal subject, please?
I find it just amazing.
I don't drink that coffee. I've had it. Anyway.
No, I'm just kidding.
So to know where, okay, coffee is has to be one of the most consumed things in the world, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay. And it's only made in a very small part of the globe, a certain proximity to the equator, right? And then at a certain elevation. So it's not like anybody we can't grow coffee in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Yeah. Drink coffee. Benny Greb, drink coffee. Anyway, it just to learn about where it's coming from, and because coffee could be the most like, okay, I'm drinking my coffee, and then like anything, just being aware of
it's almost
really
the Zen thing, right? Where you like this
is
it's
your thing.
Yeah, either you walk somewhere and you don't pick attention, or you do something every day, like, and you turn it into, you put attention into it, you turn it into an art.
And it's like, wow, 4 months ago, workers picked cherries off of a tree in Ethiopia, and now it's in my kitchen in New Jersey. It's like,
and I think what's
that's
important about is that
This is good shit, by the way.
That's bad water. Is when you are traveling, I guess there's that's part of what you do when you travel.
It's a great way to see a city.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
So instead of having the coffee at the hotel breakfast,
right?
Now I have to go 3 kilometers to this place that I read. You know what? I'm gonna go, and then I wake up that hour early, and then on that way I see all this cool street art, and I bump into this bookstore, and it's like, oh, I kind of know Manchester now because we went out of our way to get the coffee.
Yeah, and it was very good. Benny, I think you've got with travelling, Mark's is coffee, etc., etc.
This is going to be a steep fall.
Is it? So tell me about, you've got something special, haven't you, for travelling?
Yeah, so the thing, the secret is this, I bought something that changed my life. We all travel a lot, right?
It wasn't coffee.
So it's not about coffee at all. And I like to spend my days when traveling like quite silent, quite introverted, and thinking of things that hopefully matter, and I get seen that way, like someone with manners, and like someone that's like. So.
Oh no!
So I bought.
I knew we couldn't keep this up.
I bought this.
Please don't tell me you've been doing that on the airplane
all the time. When I check in,
come, let me just see.
No.
Oh my God.
So when you're at the check-in and you say, oh, we can't give you this seat. It's like, oh, really? Well, I would, but I'm so sorry. It must have been the salmon. I had a bad piece of. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. So,
Can you do it into the mic just to really make sure?
The best is when you start off like, oh, sorry. Doesn't always work. But that's why it's so realistic, and it's hard to do. Try to do it.
It's so realistic.
Yeah.
Hang on. So if I'm sitting next to you on an airplane, you start using this.
Yeah, you can't do it.
You have to be a professional.
Yeah. So where I got this from is, of course, we probably all love Leslie Nielsen, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Leslie Nielsen was an incredible guy, and he, I think, got this for like physical therapy for his wrist, like as a golfer or something. And of course, this silly bastard once found out that he can make this sound with it. And if you watch any Leslie Nielsen interview, like you will hear this somewhere. And I was introduced to this by a guy in Canada called Scott Atkins.
Yeah.
And he did this while we were flying, while we were checking in the hotel, while we were getting coffee. And I'm telling you, it was the most fun I ever had on any tour in my life. We were laughing.
Ours was quite cool. We went and drank coffee instead. Maybe that's what we should have done.
Take me with you next time.
No.
Wow.
I knew this was going to go downhill very rapidly.
I can only recommend
Catch
it.
If
you don't care what people think about you, you can have a lot of fun.
Okay, listen. I want to use it or lose it. Okay? So some new products that have come out this year at the NAMM show. Can you focus, Mr. Greb? Use it or lose it. Okay? This is new grip called the Pure Grip on the Vic Firth stick. Okay? This one is the double...
Wait. So here, it's just rougher. It's
double glaze.
I like it a lot.
Do you?
Yeah.
Here is a pair to compare it with, which is the Benny Greb model.
Oh yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, cool. I don't like that. So these would be two complete opposites, right? This is kind of completely lacquered, and this is natural.
Different job. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
I think that would slide out of my hands.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You don't like that one? What about that one?
Well, of course. I mean, I designed.
You
this.
personally made that, don't you? I've seen the pictures. You make every one, don't you?
I actually did a lot of like.
Do you like this one?
Sanding down and checking and blah blah blah. I actually did, yeah. People sometimes think that is pure, but I am that guy. I also do it with cymbals. Like I sand them down and I buried them into the garden and to just find out what it.
You need to get out and drink more coffee. We don't have time for that.
Look, everyone has.
Would you use any of those?
I would lose this green one. I can't really read, but the green
one. The Benny Greb
one,
one, you'd lose that one. Yeah, I'd sort of go with you on that one.
You know, the double glaze, I wouldn't choose this, but I can see its appeal for sure.
Right.
I remember being younger and just kind of grabbing whatever sticks in the store and being attracted to this. I don't know why.
Okay, but for looks, you mean, or for
no,
feel?
For some reason, before I really just felt the normal thing and fell in love with that. But yeah, but I like this Pure Grit.
Okay, well listen.
You know what could be cool? It could be cool if you wanted to designate a pair of sticks. Say you played 5As, right?
Yeah.
And you had one pair of these and they're designated for a certain function.
Very good.
And you know to reach down. They're very easy to find. Like if you want to dedicate a pair to the butt end or something. You know, so all your cymbal marks are going to be here. So I don't know. Thinking out loud.
Maybe.
But easier to identify, or maybe they change your... For me, it's a perspective change. Like I wouldn't rule out the double glaze just because it would make me make different choices.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait, I'm not my usual self. Let me try this, you know.
Well, guys, thank you very much. We've run out of time, but I've got a little bit of a concern to make to you, Mr. Greb, because the rumour is on the internet that a certain Mr. Benny Greb and Chris Coleman have been doing some Dolbear impressions, and I want to say that I don't sound anything like it. But maybe you would like to say goodbye to everybody in your Dolbear impression.
Oh, I only have an introduction though, but like
well, you could do an introduction. Well, I want to hear this firsthand.
No, one of my favorite things is like when Dolbear says, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do." It's not okay. This is what we're gonna do. It's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. All right. And he's very animated and oh yeah, I like the coffee, right? And there's a lot of motion, a lot of energy.
It's really me.
Of course it is.
Okay, well thank you very much for watching, everybody. And now, okay, sorry, I'm over exaggerating. Thank you guys, seriously, it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Benny.
It's been really an honor.
So on that
don't
note,
make eye contact with me when you do that.
thank you everyone. Go and buy these records. They're very, very good. And I'll see you soon. Oh my God. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mike Dolbear Web Show. If you want more, please subscribe to my YouTube page, Drum Clips, and you want to see Season 1 and Season 2, just click on the button now.